Hello, I'm Ericka Sallee, and welcome back to my channel. As a speaker, self-help author, transformation success coach, and owner of True Synergy, I help women and organizations to figure out what stands in the way of their success. And so here on this channel, I like to share stories and tips and strategies, not just to help you identify the barriers, but then to move you beyond them so that you can create the healthiest and best version of yourself. And so if this sounds like it's something that resonates with you, then I do encourage you to subscribe to this channel, share it out, and then click the little bell to turn the notifications on so that you are in the know when brand new videos are uploaded. So the topic for today is listen and move. Listen and move even when what you are hearing sounds absolutely wild. So I want to read you a journal entry that I wrote back on April the 10th, 2019. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but there is the date and there's my chicken scratch. So, wow. Almost 30 days since I wrote in my journal. I thought it was fitting to write today because God dropped something into my spirit and I just had to write it down. On the way home, I got a revelation for an idea called the Citizen Room. It's a room that companies can designate as an area to take a quick break to get stress relief. So many ideas were coming, so I had to brainstorm with myself and write stuff down. I don't have all the answers. And as I was driving, I began to feel sick because this feels so big. I underlined so. But the idea was so plain. I met a lady and I had just spoken at a conference recently, and this particular person worked at the conference. And so I say she works for the USPTO, United States Patent and Trademark Office. So she's going to help me patent the idea. Now, I wrote patent because I didn't really know what I needed. Now I know it's trademark. But God, I really need to trust that if you gave it to me and I'm following the right steps, it will come to pass. That was April 10th, 2019. Today is April the 22nd, 2022. On yesterday, April the 21st, I received the official seal that the Citizen Room has been trademarked. That is the correct term to use. So it's a little more than 3 years after this initial idea came to be. Now, I know that you have probably had some ideas, some thoughts, some things that come to mind, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that is just too many things, too much to think about. And in that moment, see, the barrier for me in this journal entry was that feeling of, oh my gosh, I feel sick to my stomach. I literally remember it as if it were yesterday. And so when we start to feel that, that's fear. That is fear. And so in that moment, here is the path. So we're on this road. We get this thought, we get this idea. There's something that we want to do. There's something we've been thinking about. And then fear creeps in. And that becomes a potential barrier if we allow it. So we get to decide which direction we're going to go. We can either go this way or that way. If we go this way, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid, I'm scared. Am I good enough? Is it too much? Do I have enough? Do I know enough? Do I have the money? Oh, I don't even know where to start. I don't know where to begin. So, nope, checking out. This way says, ooh, it feels scary. It's very big. I don't know what to do. I don't know what step to take next. But okay, let me move. I heard it, so I'm listening. Okay, let me move. So I decided to go this way. Now, the moment the idea came, the Citizen Room, my thought was, we now need to understand how important it is to take a moment to sit and zen, to find that peace, to find that recharging point, to reset, and to just get ourselves in this space of health and well-being, being healthy and taking care of ourselves. So that's where the idea came from. And I remember picking up the phone and I called my girlfriend. She's a confidant, someone that I can trust, and I had to share it with her. because I needed to get it out. See, in that moment where I had that feeling in my belly, I thought, oh gosh, I need to put this somewhere, because I need to figure out if I'm going to go this way or this way. And having that conversation with her helped me to release it and gave me the encouragement to then take the next step. So when we think about those barriers, the fear, the anxiety, the self-doubt, all of the things that make us say, oh gosh, I can't do this, sometimes we have to lean into what feels uncomfortable. And in leaning into that, if there's someone we can share with, to just say, you know, I just need to deposit this somewhere. I just need to put it out there. And be sure, here is one thing to remember, be sure to share with the right person, because we can't always share with everybody, because everybody doesn't have our best interest at heart. And there will be some naysayers in your space who will hear this thing that you're sharing and say, oh gosh, you can't do that. So I knew that this girlfriend was the one that I could go to share it and to encourage me. And so just be mindful that when we put our thoughts and ideas out there, that we're putting it in a place that is trustworthy, okay? So that's one of the things. So I go home and I start writing all these things down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. And so that fear turned into excitement, because I thought, okay, well, I don't really know. And I said, I don't have all the answers. As a matter of fact, the only thing that I had on April the 10th, 2019 was the name and what it was. And really at that time, it was just a small piece of what it was. So I go home, I start writing ideas down, and I started to think about, well, what is this? And what's the feeling? And what are the colors associated? So that took me to, okay, well, what's the logo associated with this thing? What is the brand behind it? So I reach out to a friend who I'd met at another conference, marketing person, creates logos, does a whole lot of marketing materials for a trusted friend. So I reach out and I say, hey, start sharing the idea with her. So she and I started to create together, right? So sometimes when we think about whatever it is, now I'm telling you about this idea. For you, it could be something totally different. It might be just a small step that feels like it's big for you. But when we think about just how big something feels, that becomes a barrier too, because the bigness of it, and I don't think that's a word, but that's what I wanted to, how I wanted to say it, can check us out too. So break it down into smaller pieces so that you're not trying to accomplish the thing right away. And I will tell you, one of the barriers that I have been guilty of is that when the idea comes, I'm like, okay, I got it. It's supposed to happen next week. And clearly this was not that. So we have to understand that as we listen and we begin to move, we may not see the exact end result as it was designed for us right away. The moment we recognize that, then we can move that barrier off the table. And then that takes some of the fear out of it, because you're only taking one small step at a time. All right. So started working on a logo and started thinking about, okay, well, what does this look like? So that was probably 2000, so this was April 2019. So by the end of 2019, I had a logo. I actually had her draft up some, mock marketing materials, just because I wanted to kind of see, well, what's the messaging and what would it sound like, and how do I present this to an organization? All right. So that was 2019. Then 2020 came, and we all know what 2020 was. It was the year that changed the entire world. The year when COVID struck and everything changed, okay? So in the midst of that, however, I then moved from, okay, I heard it, I listened, I moved, I got the logo, and I said, all right, I need to go ahead and fill out the paperwork to trademark this. And that was probably in March of 2020, just to show you how long the process has been. So in the meantime, while that's happening and all the filings were happening, I decided, we are in this space where we really now need to think about what self-care looks like. Because we were in 2020, we were in lockdown, people were at home, people were stressed, people were anxious, and in some cases still so. And that was happening. Those feelings were happening even before 2020. So add COVID and everything that came along with it into that space. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we really need to understand how important it is to take care of ourselves. Self-care, wellness, well-being, healthy living, because we're so busy moving and doing everything for so many other people and not really taking the time that we need for ourselves. It was important before 2020. It became even more important when the pandemic hit. So I decided, okay, I want to set up this space to begin having conversations with people about self-care, about wellness and well-being, and what that looks like and how to make it a priority. So I work with a team of people to create a website, to create a space, the Citizen Room. That website was designed to provide people with some of the products, the complements to help you think about what self-care is about, or a portion of what it's about. So candles, body scrubs, body butter, and I put it into a space on Instagram. Okay, so we've got Instagram, we've got a website. And the messaging around both of those spaces, in particular, the website, thecitizenroom.com, is where you can go to purchase products if you want to enhance, your self-care regimen. Started out with a few simple products just to kind of, get it out there. The Instagram space is the space where I have conversations and where I take the concept of self-care and well-being to another level, because there's so many layers to what it means to take care of ourselves that the website shows you, here are a few things that you can use in order to do that. On Instagram, I'm saying, well-being is not just about the food that you eat and how much exercise you get, but there's so much more to having mind, body, spirit wellness. Okay, so that was 2020, just kind of taking it to the next step. So I share it this way because there are small steps along the way that get us from, okay, I heard it, I'm listening, and moving. And the movement is the little small baby steps to get you and I to what the end result is. And so the strategy around moving beyond that initial thought of how in the world, again, I say, I don't have all the answers. I didn't have a clue as to what to do. And so I just decided I'm going to take one small step. And the fact that I had met people prior to this who had other pieces to fill in what I did not know was part of the blessing to help move. So when you come across someone, you think you're just having a casual conversation, it might be the very person and the very conversation that you need to go back to when you get to this moment and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? Oh wait, I met so-and-so at this. Oh, I connected with this person. And then you start to put those pieces together. So fast forward to now. And I think, okay, this is the next step in the puzzle. This is the next move that after listening on April the 10th, 2019, here I am at the next step. Now, there is another step after this. There's more to do. There's another step to take. So I've now partnered with someone else to say, okay, let's put this thing together in a way that gets to the end goal, which is to really begin to transform the conversation that we as a society are having about health, well-being, wellness, healthy living, self-care in the workplace that transcends into our personal lives. It all works together. And so for you, there's something today that you may be saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I had this idea. I've been sitting on it just because it's just so many different things. I don't know. There's so many pieces, and who do I talk to? Where do I go? Where do I start? What do I do? And all I'm saying is that I get it. I get how big it feels. I get how intimidating it might feel. I get that you might say, oh gosh, I have this idea, but I got to fund it. Where's the money coming from? And so when you begin to take one small step, one step at a time, just put one foot in front of the other and keep moving, because what I will say is that when you take one step, there's some other things that come into play that says, okay, so this is the next step. Then some other things will come into play and you're like, okay, this is where I am right now, and now I need to take the next step. It is just a consistent rhythm of movement to get to wherever it is you want and need to be. Let me share this with you also as I begin to wrap up. The other thing that I thought that was very interesting, I don't know if you have read Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. This book has so many nuggets. I've got so many dog ears, so many highlights and things written in this book. But one thing that I wanted to call to your attention is I think this is part 2 of the book. Yeah, part 2, which is called Living Into Your Values. And she goes through this whole exercise about how to identify your core values. And I'm going to tell you, when I first looked at this is on page 188 of the book. If you haven't read it, I do encourage you to check it out. When I looked at this list, there's a whole list. And when leading up to this page, she pretty much breaks it down and says, when you think about your core values, they're going to boil down to 2. So I'm looking at this list and I'm like, okay, 2 core values out of, I don't even know how many words are on this page, but it's a lot, okay? My core values, and I circle them here, are faith and well-being. I tell you, it's so spot on. Faith and well-being. I actually circled them. I don't know if you can see it on the page, faith and well-being. And so when I think about this conversation that we're having right now, I realize that well-being is exactly it. When I'm having conversations with women or in group coaching, it always goes back to well-being. Well-being is a multi-layered conversation because it symbolizes the fact that we are living in an optimal state of wellness. Mind, body, and spirit. We are living in that optimal state of well-being in our personal and our professional lives. We are living in an optimal state of well-being when we feel fulfilled and we feel like we are purposeful. And that's the conversation that I'm always having, whether it's with an individual client, an executive coaching client, or doing a training session for an organization. And so when I think about this idea, the citizen room is all about well-being. It's all about helping organizations to promote the well-being of their workforce. And so I thought about that as I was preparing, how I wanted to share this story with you, and then thinking about faith. Faith is thinking about something and not having a clue about, well, what am I supposed to do with it and how am I supposed to get to the next? But you move anyway with the belief that when you do that whatever it is that you are setting out to do, it will come to pass. And that's why my last statement here, as I wrote, God, I really need to trust, Faith, that if you have given this to me, and it was so clear, I tell you, it was so clear that day when I heard that little small voice, and I'm following the right steps, then it will come to pass. That's the faith part. So whatever it is for you, I encourage you to listen and to move. Don't feel like you gotta move and do it all at one time, because if it is as big as the idea is given to you, then you will have to break it down. It's almost like, for those of you who enjoy like a good steak, right? If you have a really big piece of steak, let's take a prime rib. That's a big piece of steak. You can't eat that whole steak in one bite. You just can't do it, because you'll choke. It won't go down the right way. It might get stuck in certain places in your body and block. You just cannot do it. So you have to break it. You have to cut it down into bite-sized pieces so that you can chew it, digest it, and allow it to go where it needs to go in the best possible way. Okay? It's the same with our goals that we set out to achieve. No matter what it is, whether it's starting a business, writing a book, whether it's an idea like what I just shared with the Citizen Room, if it's, oh my gosh, I need to save money, I need to lose weight, I want to establish new relationships, whatever it is, it starts with one step. When you hear that voice and you listen to that inspiration, then it's like, okay, here it is. Now, what is the next best step that I can take? I heard Oprah say this in a video that I watched of hers, and it was just so spot on. It is, what is the next best or the next right step that I need to take for this thing? And then you do that. And then when you get to that point, then you take the next right or best step to keep moving. There's so much that I could share in this conversation, but I'm hoping that in this moment, that if you have identified whatever barrier resonates with you in this conversation, whether it's fear, doubt, insecurity, uncertainty, whatever it is, then say to yourself, okay, I can either take the road that says, ooh, nope, not gonna do it, or I can lean into it and say, all right, let me just move in the next direction. And let me move in the next direction. And then watch that fear, that anxiety, not go away altogether. But when it comes up, you'll be able to use the fact that you've already taken some steps to then talk back to the fear and say, no, I'm right here. I didn't get to this point just to stop. Let me keep moving. Okay. So anyway, listen, I'm so excited. I'm excited because I get to share this story with you. I'm also nervous about it because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, what is the next step? And so there's things happening right now to move into the next step and to really broaden this conversation about well-being, self-care, healthy living. And so I'm excited to be able to continue that journey. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. If you have questions and you say, okay, I've heard this and I have questions about, well, what do I do next? Or, how can this work for me? Or how can you support me in this effort, whatever that is? If it's moving to your next best version, moving beyond that fear so that you can be the best woman that you want to be. If it's moving in alignment with a different type of workforce and team dynamic. And if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, well, what is this healthy living thing all about, and how do I incorporate it, not just at work but at home? Then I do encourage you to reach out to me at truesynergy@comcast.net. That is an email, yes, or truesynergy.org. So either one, truesynergy@comcast.net. Send me an email and say, hey, I've got a question. Let's talk about it. Truesynergy.org. At the very top of the website, there is an opportunity to schedule a 30 to 45 minute discovery call. We just have a conversation about what's happening in your space. And then here are two other things that I will leave you with. And I will put all of this in the description of this video. But we talk about self-care, and we're trying to find that harmony between, there's work and there's life, and how do I take care of myself in the midst of it all? In the link to this video, there is a link to a free masterclass, okay? It's 3 tips to boost your self-care routine for the healthy person, for the busy person trying to find work-life harmony. I know it's a long title, but you know what? It's the reality. So if you're interested in that free masterclass, then I do encourage you to, yes, go to the link, the description of this video, click on that link. You can listen to that really insightful information. And then finally, one of the other things that I think is so important is for us to take this healthy living conversation to the next level. And so there's information also in the description around the Healthy Living online course. It is Healthy Living, a holistic approach to self-care and well-being. And that is important at this moment when we are all trying to figure out how to do us a little bit better, or even if you haven't even thought about it, now is that time, because we are on the part of this continuum out of COVID. Let's keep our fingers and crossed and prayers up that we are now coming out of this. And so now is the time to be thinking about, well, what does it look like for me so that I can be the healthiest and best version of myself? So all of those links will be in this description of this video. And then if you have any questions for me, please do not hesitate to reach out either at truesynergy.org, truesynergy@comcast.net, and then we can keep this conversation going. So I do appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Until I do, take care and be well.